Okay, so let's just dive right in. And I think the best place to start is with what seems to be a point of no return in New Jersey.
Okay.
And that is, of course, the ongoing conflict between Teresa Giudice and her brother, Joe Gorga, and his wife, Melissa.
It's really interesting, because the stance that Teresa has taken is so definitive.
Yes.
She has said she will never reconcile with them, both Joe and Melissa. And she attributes it to, obviously the loss of their parents, which is, a huge thing for any family. But she also just says that there's been too much damage.
Right.
It's been over a decade of this conflict. And that really kind of signals to me that it is deeply entrenched. And it might even be irreparable at this point.
Yeah, it does feel like it's, there's no going back from that kind of absolute declaration.
Yeah, I agree.
It's interesting, too, because you can really see how Teresa's own understanding of this feud has evolved over time.
Right.
She initially, really placed the blame squarely on Melissa, but now she's come to believe that her brother, Joe, was like equally motivated by this, the fame that comes along with being on a reality show.
It makes you wonder if there are, obviously there's the genuine family dynamics at play.
Of course.
But is there a layer of fame and exposure that's also driving these conflicts?
Right. It's like you said, it's so hard to disentangle those threads of what's real and what's maybe being amplified or even, sort of manufactured for the sake of the show.
Absolutely.
But I thought it was really interesting when she described that incident.
Yes.
Where Joe actually called her, she didn't say it, but the implication was a very, very harsh name.
Yes.
And and she talked about how she just walked away in that moment.
Right.
Which, was so different than what she would have done before. She even said that her old self would have probably gotten physical.
Yeah, it really shows, I think that contrast shows, a real evolution.
Right.
And how she manages conflict and how she responds to those situations.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, think about, what prompted that shift.
Yeah, and she was almost proud of herself in that moment for showing that restraint.
Yes.
And then she brought up how her ex-husband, Joe Giudice, reacted to this. And she said that he was so angry about it that he demanded that Teresa's brother apologize to her. So it just really shows you those intense family dynamics,
Yes, those emotions run very high.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of past reactions, she brought up the infamous Nashville trip where, as you might recall, she threw things at Margaret Josephs.
Right.
And Teresa kind of explained that she was so activated because she felt that Margaret wasn't being truthful and was unfairly targeting her current husband, Louis.
And the truth always comes out, she says.
Exactly. And, for Teresa, loyalty to her partner seems to be a huge flashpoint.
Yes.
She also, she offered some interesting comparisons between Louis and her ex-husband, Joe Giudice, noting that they're very different.
Yeah.
And she even mentioned that her mother initially disliked Joe Giudice.
Oh, wow.
Because of his behavior as a teenager.
What?
But she did insist that Joe Giudice wasn't a bad guy, just, that he did some stupid things on TV sometimes, especially when he was drinking.
Right.
And then she dropped this pretty candid little bit of insider info, I think, when she said that the producers, quote, like when you drink because then you do say stupid shit on TV.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, what do you make of that?
That is interesting.
I mean, beyond just getting the, stupid shit on camera.
Right.
Does this suggest a level of, manipulation?
It does make you wonder about how genuine some of these reactions are.
Yeah.
If they're, encouraging the cast to drink and loosen up a bit.
Right.
Is that really ethical?
Right. It makes you wonder about, the duty of care that the producers have towards their cast members.
Absolutely.
But Teresa did also make a point of highlighting her efforts to support Joe Giudice. She said that she really fought for him and even shouldered his legal fees before his deportation for, bank fraud.
Right.
So it does kind of show her commitment to him.
It really does.
During, obviously a really challenging time for their family.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Oh, and she also said that her experience on House of Villains
interesting.
actually allowed her to be her real self.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Which is, well, I don't know. What do you think that means?
I think it makes you think about, what is her real self?
Right.
Maybe House of Villains that format just allowed her to be more free, you know?
Yeah, maybe RHONJ is a little bit more of a curated version of Teresa.
Right.
And finally, regarding RHONJ, Teresa touched on her personal philosophy about empowering women, which, you know, she's talked about before, but she mentioned, you know, believing in yourself, cultivating strength, turning negatives into positives, and being a role model for her children.
Right. Of course.
And just so you know, she did confirm that RHONJ is currently on a break before its 15th season.
Well, that's a perfect time to look back and reevaluate.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a natural time to take stock.
Now, staying within the Giudice family, Teresa's daughter, Gia Giudice, actually addressed her mom and stepdad's, Luis Varela's, recent $3 million tax liens on her podcast, Casual Chaos.
Oh, wow.
And it sounds like Gia is stepping up to, you know, defend her parents.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and her first reaction was to downplay the financial issues, saying, quote, everything is going to be fine. Yeah. Which, you know, is a very confident stance.
It shows a lot of loyalty and support for her mom during a tough time.
And she really praised Teresa's incredible work ethic.
Oh, right.
And she emphasized that her mom has basically been the sole provider for her and her sisters since Gia Giudice went to prison. So she talked about how hard Teresa has worked since being released from prison to really, like, get back on track and make sure that her family is financially stable.
It really shows you that image of Teresa as a very dedicated and responsible parent.
Yeah, very much so.
Stepping up and being there for her kids.
And Gia also reassured her listeners that Teresa, quote, has the situation under control and that Luis is actively working to resolve these tax lands, so it's like a united front from the Giudice-Ruelas family in the face of this, you know, public scrutiny.
It's great to see that support system within the family.
Right, and then she moved on to address Bethenny Frankel's critical TikTok video regarding Teresa's financial situation. And, well, let's just say she didn't hold back in her response.
Interesting.
Yeah, so she basically sarcastically thanked Bethenny and suggested that, as a mother, Bethenny should be more sensitive to these types of situations. And she even questioned whether that, quote, $1,000 TikTok paycheck was worth all of the criticism.
It's a very direct response.
Yeah, it's very pointed and personal.
Yeah, and I think it shows, you know, the sort of tension that can exist between past and present housewives. Yeah. And it also just really highlights that, you know, fierce loyalty that family members have when someone's in the public eye.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, RHONJ is on hiatus right now.
So they're not filming at the moment.
Okay, so let's switch gears and head down to Atlanta. Well, things are really heating up on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. So Kenya Moore has been reacting to the latest episode, and specifically a pretty charged incident with the newcomer Brittany Edie. And it sounds like Kenya really felt like she was put in a very defensive position from the beginning. Now, she was pretty clear in saying that she felt like her storyline was being, quote, told by someone else. Which, you know, probably means that she didn't have many confessionals.
It sounds like she feels like she's not in control of her own narrative on the show.
Yeah, and she also makes some serious allegations, claiming that she was, quote, threatened with whips and pistols by Brittany very early in filming.
Oh, my goodness.
And she said that she genuinely felt like her safety was at risk.
That's a serious accusation right out of the gate.
Yeah, and she doubled down by saying that there was absolutely no context missing from what viewers saw.
Wow.
So basically, she's denying that there were any prior interactions or off-camera gossip that could have fueled this conflict.
It sounds like she's saying Brittany's aggression came out of nowhere.
Exactly. And she even quoted a fan who said that they were confused about the apparent lack of context. So she's really adamant that
Brittany was in the wrong.
Right.
Now, she did say that she hopes that the editing will eventually show, quote, what provoked her own later actions, which we know refer to the allegations that she made about Brittany involving revenge porn. So it's kind of a
little bit of a back and forth.
Yeah, a little bit of a he said, she said situation.
It seems like both sides are saying that they were provoked.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Right. And interestingly, Candiace Dillard Bassett from Potomac actually publicly voiced her support for Kenya.
Oh, wow.
Suggesting that Kenya is being unfairly targeted.
Yes. That's interesting.
Yeah, I always think it's so interesting when housewives from different franchises, chime in on each other's drama.
I know. It's almost like they have this shared understanding because they've all been through this world
exactly.
of reality TV.
So now when you look at the recap of the actual episode,
it reveals that Brittany actually said, following an argument with Kenya, quote, "I mean, I still have my chistel, though."
Oh, wow.
So that does seem to, support what Kenya was saying.
Yeah, that's really concerning.
Yeah, and she also allegedly said, quote, "I got whips, pistols, everything," and she even told Kenya directly, "Don't play with me."
Oh,
and then Kenya is heard saying from, I guess she is in a car, that Brittany was talking about guns and that, quote, "she gotta go."
It does definitely corroborate what Kenya was saying about feeling threatened.
Right. Yeah. And the recap did point out that, while Kenya's alleged revenge porn accusations were wrong, Brittany mentioning a gun is also extremely problematic and implies a threat.
Right.
So I don't think anybody...
This one comes out of that looking good.
Exactly. And it suggests that this season of RHOA is going to be...
Yeah, there's definitely...
presumption.
Yeah. And it also has Shamea Morton.
Who has now, she's a full-time housewife.
Right, a peach holder.
Yes.
Fully in the mix.
So she's been discussing her journey to becoming a peach holder, and also some of those evolving relationships within the cast.
That's interesting because she has a lot of history with these women.
Yes, she does.
So it should be fascinating to see her perspective.
So she mentioned that they had approached her in the past about joining the show, but her husband was hesitant at first. But now he's more supportive, so,
That's great.
Good for her.
Yeah.
And she also said that she's excited to raise awareness for children with disabilities and also to share her talents in singing and acting.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it sounds like she's got some really genuine motivation.
It seems like she wants to use her platform for good.
Right. Now, she did acknowledge that things have changed between her and Porsha Williams now that they are both full-time housewives. She said that she still loves Porsha and she wants the best for her, but she's unsure exactly why their dynamic has shifted.
It's interesting how those dynamics change when you're both full-time housewives.
It makes you wonder if there's like a little bit of...
maybe a little competition.
Right, yeah.
For screen time.
Or like just a different vibe to the relationship. But Shamea also said that she's always felt like she's been the glue of the cast and that she wasn't really surprised to have connections with all the women because she's been in those Atlanta social circles for so long.
Yeah, she's very well connected.
Right.
Yeah.
However, she did reveal that she's no longer a fan of Brittany Edie.
Okay.
She mentioned that there was an initial coolness that escalated after Brittany and Kelly Farrell had a falling out.
Oh, okay.
And Shamea actually alleged that Brittany, quote, went there against one of her children.
Wow, that is very serious.
Yeah.
It explains why she doesn't like Brittany.
Yes.
You do not mess with the children.
Right. So she's not happy with Brittany. And interestingly, she also believes that Kenya, quote, went too far with her actions.
Yeah.
But she said she has a forgiving heart towards both Kenya and Brittany.
Right.
And she even said that she would welcome Kenya's return to the show because she feels like Kenya has made significant contributions to the franchise.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and then regarding Phaedra, Shamea did say that she has returned with, quote, good energy.
Okay.
And that she hopes that Phaedra has changed for the better.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Right, exactly.
How that plays out.
All right, so let's move on now
to
Beverly Hills, where Lisa Rinna has been reflecting on her time on RHOBH and also her relationship with Andy Cohen during her, time on the show.
Interesting.
Yeah, she's been doing it on her own podcast.
Oh, okay.
And she has some, I think, some interesting regrets about how she navigated things.
I'd love to hear this.
Yeah, so she actually described this feeling of, she called it, quote, trope of housewife to Big Daddy with Andy Cohen.
Yeah.
And she explained that she felt like she was reverting back to this, like, old pattern where she was giving her power away to him.
Wow.
Almost like, she was a little girl and he was the boss.
It sounds like she was not feeling empowered in that dynamic.
Right. And she even compared it to like falling back into roles that you play during traumatic situations, which, is a pretty deep psychological insight.
It's interesting that she connected that to past trauma.
Yeah.
And that sort of dynamic that she felt like she was in.
Right. So clearly, there were some deeper things going on than maybe we saw on the surface.
I agree.
And she also said that she regrets not quitting the show on camera.
Oh, wow.
During the season 12 reunion.
That would have been a huge moment.
Right. So she had planned to make this really dramatic exit.
Right.
But she didn't go through with it.
It makes you wonder why.
I know.
What happened?
Okay, so let's move on now to the Southern Charm and Summer House world.
Yeah.
Where, of course, the breakup between Craig Conover and Paige DeSorbo is still,
of course,
making waves.
Yes.
So we have some interesting updates on Craig's new relationship and also some insights from Paige. Into what went wrong.
Right.
Okay, so Craig was actually spotted at the Charleston airport with his new girlfriend, Natalie Buffett.
Oh, okay.
So it's been confirmed.
He moved on.
Yes, he has. And she's not exactly, a nobody.
Well.
Natalie has a history with Dak Prescott and Jack Flaherty.
Really?
Yes, so she's been around.
Okay.
And this is where it's really interesting.
All right.
She also has past ties with Craig.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, dating back to 2019.
Oh, so they're rekindling something.
It seems like it, yeah.
That is so interesting.
He was even tagged in her Instagram highlights from that time.
Wow.
Specifically in a photo taken in the Bahamas.
Okay, so there's some history there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And there's a rumor going around that they actually had a fight during that trip to the Bahamas.
Okay.
And that's what caused Natalie to leave the trip early.
Oh, so maybe there was some drama.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't all smooth sailing.
Yeah.
Now, Craig seems to be pretty happy in his current relationship.
Okay.
He's been quoted as saying, quote, "The universe works in crazy ways, but everything happens for a reason."
Mm-hmm.
And that he's, quote, "really happy in the chapter I'm in."
So he's definitely looking for...
Yeah, it sounds like he's moved on, which, good for him.
Good for him.
Now, as for Paige, a sneak peek from the upcoming season of Summer House shows her admitting that she was feeling, quote, icky and, quote, attacked by Craig before their split.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, it doesn't sound like it was a very healthy dynamic.
Not at all.
And she even claimed that Craig had no interest in talking about her career unless it involved him or their relationship, specifically mentioning her Giggly Squad tour.
Yeah.
So it sounds like she really felt like her ambitions weren't being acknowledged or supported.
Yeah.
She also recalled that Craig wanted to be her, quote, #1 priority.
Yeah.
And that his seemingly nice words often felt insincere.
Oh, wow.
And actually made her feel worse internally.
Yeah, it's like there was a disconnect.
Yes.
Between what he was saying and how she was actually feeling.
Yeah, right. And on the Summer House, after show, Paige actually said that even if they got married, Craig would always come third after her children.
Wow. So she's very clear about her priorities.
Yeah, and she reflected on their communication issues as well, saying that Craig often misinterpreted her straightforwardness as being, quote, harsh, which, honestly, that's a recipe for disaster in any relationship.
Absolutely. It's like you can't communicate, honestly.
And she even said it led her to just, stay quiet to avoid conflict.
Wow.
Yeah. So, not a good sign.
No.
But the fallout from this breakup doesn't just end with Craig and Paige.
Oh, no.
Apparently, Craig has ended his friendship with Venita Aspen because she expressed her continued loyalty to Paige after they split.
Okay, so he's drawing lines in the sand.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
And Venita responded on social media, indicating that she's not really bothered, which, maybe means that the friendship wasn't that
for me
to begin with.
It was already strained.
Yeah. And then there are also these details emerging about Venita's interactions with JT Thomas.
Oh, okay.
From Southern Charm.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's a bit of a romantic entanglement.
Oh, so there's always something off camera going.
Right. So Venita actually claimed that JT led her to believe that they were pursuing a relationship after his previous relationship ended. And she said they were going on, quote, dates, DNM near every single day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, in her mind, it was more...
It sounds like she thought it was going somewhere.
Right. And then she also alleged that JT's former or current girlfriend, I'm not really sure what the status is,
right,
was sending her negative messages.
Uh-oh.
And that JT didn't really address the situation.
Wow, that's messy.
Yeah, so it's like, that classic recipe for off-screen drama.
Yeah, the third party always complicates things.
And she actually said that she ended up ghosting JT for a week to process everything.
Right.
And as if that wasn't enough.
Yeah.
The preview for the Southern Charm reunion shows Venita bringing,
oh my God,
quote, receipts.
Receipts, yes.
On her phone.
Regarding, the timeline of events with JT.
Oh, that's going to be good.
So I think it's going to be a very explosive reunion episode.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one.
All right, finally, we have some concerning news coming out of Potomac regarding Karen Huger. So reportedly, she is terrified of being targeted in prison.
Oh, no.
Following her DUI conviction and 1 year sentence with 1 year suspended.
I see.
And a source actually claims that she's, quote, drowning in legal bills.
Oh, wow.
And experiencing panic attacks and insomnia.
I mean, that would be really scary for anyone. Host.